So you got it. You said born God Bell. That was a time when brothers were writing plus lessons and writing them.
Not as much.
I want to say the Bell ciphers is really when they really became really.
As time went on, because back in the 70s, you really didn't question it. That questioning of what already was written, dudes didn't question. They didn't stand up. They just accepted what it is. It was like as the 80s progressed on, a lot of questions started getting answered. I'll never forget when I got the knowledge. There's two scriptures in the Bible that say it's Psalms 82 verse 6 and St. John 10:34. One is Old Testament, one is New Testament. Right. And mind you, I was raised in the church. I never heard those two scriptures ever in all my years into the 80s. All year gods. I never heard it.
Right.
And when I did find about it in the 80s, I thought maybe they just added that. No, that's always been there. But it just never was.
The gods added it?
I know somebody added it, I thought. But I found out it's always been there.
It's always been there.
It just wasn't expounded upon.
Right.
They didn't.
It was overlooked.
Yeah. Well, it just wasn't talked about. You got to remember, they gave us on the plantation, churches, Bible, and a minister. 3 things they gave you guaranteed. But you wasn't allowed to read. So that minister probably knew that, but didn't teach that.
Of course, right.
We couldn't read it, so he didn't tell us. We couldn't read, we never knew it. And keeping that in thought, as time progressed, we never knew that. The things that we did know was, in the beginning was the Word. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. So we knew that. Because in the plantation, they used that to their advantage. Be obedient to the master. But it wasn't talking about masa. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they use it to their advantage. You know what I mean? You get beat with stripes, Ezekiel.
Right.
If you wasn't obedient. But that's not what the Bible's referring to, for the master that beat us. But they use it to their advantage.
Right.
All ye gods wouldn't be to their advantage. He didn't say some of y'all gods, or your white ones are God, or your dark ones are God. He said all ye are gods.
Right.
So because of that, you can see why they kept it on the down low. And you didn't hear it. I didn't hear it until the 80s. To the 80s, it's time.
So the 80s started being questioned. But I noticed, like I said, the plus lessons were real prevalent in the 80s, and somewhat of the early born ciphers. I got a lot. I would say like I was sparked by my physicals, who was in the penitentiary, and I was out in the free world. A lot of his plus lessons, and I started going through. I was like, what is this? Like I've never heard this stuff. And then he would come home and he would quote it. But then,
what is a plus lesson?
A degree that's added on from 120.
Just another man's understanding.
Right.
Just another man.
Right, but what I'm saying is that you don't find them like. See, I went through the closet and found a stack of lessons, plus lessons. You know what I'm saying? Like before I even knowledge 120, I saw a lot of my physicals plus lessons.
You remember any name of them?
There was like the history of Buddha. There was one called Yin and Yang.
Those are all old.
Old joints.
Mr. Yakub, 16-year process.
Right, I remember that.
But those are all
from before
the 80s.
Before
all those before the 80s.
So like the 70s and whatnot.
Yeah, they play. And a lot of time, it took a lot to even start writing plus lessons. One of my first plus lessons I wrote probably was like 82, 83, somewhere around there, when I really got into writing plus lessons. I didn't do them in 78. I still was.
Now you say you got it really more solid and
I got solid like as 80s progress, like in middle 80s. I got kind of right when Ken Do started giving, because I got in 78 and like 82 when I met Ken Do, I really was like getting my foundation right. He was like tightening me up, and as time progressed, I still recognized that I was still lip professing, that I still didn't have it here.
In your heart.
Around 87, 86, when I really took it to heart.
Right.
I really took it hard.
Was it an experience that put it in?
It was. I started realizing there's no way I can keep going in and out of jail. Say I got the knowledge, the supreme knowledge of that. Say I'm God, but I'm constantly bouncing in and forth.
If Mecca did this.